Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We greatly appreciate you coming out this morning so early. We are gonna get started here. We're gonna get started this morning, and we appreciate you all coming. And I am going to take a second and intro this session. So when I was thinking about kind of my career path and some other ladies that I've worked with and currently work with, I thought about how difficult it is sometimes to build your career and think about what other things could I be doing, should I be doing, how do we accomplish those things? And so when I thought about this session, it was like very apparent to me who I needed to get on this panel because all of these ladies represent different points of my career growth. And I am super proud to have them introduce themselves today and kick off this session. So thank you all this morning for coming. We appreciate it. So we will start with Lakeisha Farmer.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, great. Lakeisha Farmer, pharmacist by training, started out as a clinical pharmacist in indigent hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, where I serviced the entire hospital. I kind of moved all around with the major concentration in women's health because that is very near and dear to my heart. Did that for a few years and decided that leadership is where I wanted to be. The funny part about it was I wanted to be in leadership because I saw in that position what I didn't like in leadership, and I wanted to change that. And so if you can't, change things, then you have to be the change. So I decided to go into leadership, and I moved on to be a director of pharmacy in an inpatient hospital right outside of Memphis in a town called Forest City, Arkansas. It was a major sacrifice for me because I was commuting very far, but I knew that it was something that I had to do because Memphis was very saturated at the time with leadership positions. And so I just said, you know what, I'll do it. I did that for about 4 years and decided that, you know what, this was a great beginning. I taught myself a lot of things, but now I want to expand. I started taking leadership courses to sharpen my tools and to become a better leader. And I wanted to utilize the things that I was learning in those courses. And so I moved on to become the director of pharmacy at a large community oncology practice in the Memphis area. I oversaw all of their infusion services as well as the specialty pharmacy services, which was very new to me because community oncology had changed a lot since I had graduated from pharmacy school. So it was a big learning curve, but I saw it as a challenge, and I wanted to be something that was important to my community. And so at that moment, I decided that a change leader, a transformational leader was what I wanted to become. So while I was there, I went back, I obtained my MBA. I grew that department from a staff of 13 to a staff of 33. Left there after 5 years and joined my current organization, Syncora, who is the sponsor. Shout out to Syncora. And I started as a pharmacy account director there, and now the senior director of strategic accounts, where I lead the relationship with our largest community oncology partners. So thank you all for having us today.
Thank you, Lakeisha. We would like to now introduce Dr. McClellan.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tammy McClellan, and I am a PharmD also. My training started back, my interest in pharmacy started back from a career day in high school when I began to do the research and learn more about pharmacy, and started with the pharmacy technician role all the way up through the program and working in different various roles of pharmacy, from retail to hospital to infusion to specialty, even a little veterinarian and nuclear medicine in that. And from that, I built all of my experience, which leads me to my current role today, which I am certified in Epic's Willow, Beacon, and ambulatory apps. So my primary role today is I write all of our oncology protocols for my institution, and I program Epic to do the things that is beneficial for our end users. So I write rules. I have Epic do various things on various days of the treatment cycles, warn of the adverse effects, and make sure all of our treatment and things like that are up to date. Also, since writing is kind of what I find myself at this certain point, I do have some collaborations with Pharmacy Times or Cancer Network, and I go ahead and get the pharmacy perspective and provide that for the different disease states or what may be available or up and coming. For lots of us, bispecifics right now is a hot topic, so I recently did an article for that, and just trying to stay in the mainstream and keep everybody educated on what it is that we as pharmacists at the institution needs and provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Miss Natasha Gomes.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone up and early. So yes, I worked with Tara and Tammy, and so I worked as a patient financial navigator in a health system. There were over 700 physicians, 6 infusion sites, supported over 140 medications. And during that time, the workflow process, it was a little fragmented. How do you communicate? How do the physicians talk to the navigators? How do the navigators talk to the patients? How can the patients find us? So trying to develop workflow and process improvement at the time. And so there was a team of 5 of us, and we were able to utilize Epic and really build out how to support patients, whether it was oral, infusion, sub-Q, regardless of disease state. How can we help support them when it comes to patient affordability? And so wrote an article about that prior to leaving Dooley. And while I worked there, I received a lot of assistance from other FRMs, from reps, and they would come in, and when they would leave, I'm like, I think I want to do what they're doing. And so I went back to college at 35. I got my bachelor's, and I just took a chance on myself, and I said, maybe it's time to leave. I was there almost 14 years. I had a great manager. There was this level of comfort, but I had this gut feeling that it was time to really stretch and really, take this opportunity on myself to move on. So then I moved over to Exenda. I went to Takeda, and then now I'm with Genentech. So I had 3 moves in 3 years. And while it was nerve-wracking, it was very empowering at the same time. And most importantly, what I did in the health system, I still take it with me when I work with other accounts. And so when I sit with another navigator or social worker, they're like, you sat in my seat, you know this life. And I said, oh yeah. And so the relationship management there and that bonding, it really, truly helps as an FRM.
Thank you so much, ladies, for that introduction. I'm just super excited about the session, and just even hearing some themes in your introductions. I kind of see a similar thread that you were exposed to something else. You decided you wanted to make a change. You saw people who were doing something that you're like, hey, I can do that. You saw a lack of leadership and figured you could fill a gap, for other people from a leadership standpoint. So it was awesome to hear your introductions. So I want to talk about one thing. I think sometimes we get a little bit caught up looking at job descriptions and feeling woefully inadequate when it comes to reading that JD and being like, oh my goodness, I don't think I qualify for this role, and just getting like frozen and stuck there. So one of the things I want to talk to you ladies about are, how are you able to use, because you're all in different roles than kind of where you started from a healthcare system standpoint, retail, hospital, health system, navigator. None of you are doing those exact roles now. What were some of the things that you thought about and the skill sets that you had to make you feel confident on applying for something that was completely out of your wheelhouse? Like, Tosh, can you
Yeah, I feel, I'm good at problem solving and strategic planning. So once again, knowing that I was able to utilize my skill sets and it was transferable, that was very motivating. And so I think where we can tend to put limits on ourselves, we need to realize, am I doing this? Speaking with other people who are doing the role, that helped a lot. And so being able to get more information and not be intimidated by the JD, to Chara's point where, can you do 80% of the role or not even realizing some of the terminology. When I moved over from navigator to FRM and then my associate director, I'm like, this role seems similar to like a team lead. So then you start to you're starting to map out how it looks from one job role to the next. And I think that was really powerful. And learning how to manage change. When I worked in the health system, there were acquisitions, there were mergers. I did collections, customer service, and I'm thinking all of this is in my toolbox. And I will utilize this wherever I go. And so that was very important to just remind myself that, I can do this.
One of the things I heard in there, and of course you ladies weigh in if you want to answer that question, but I heard something that you talked about, and I would phrase that as you got curious. You got curious talking to other people about what exactly it is that they do, and that curiosity led you to be able to connect what you do to what they do, and that is a way that you can help sell yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. My first leadership position was from a clinical pharmacist to a director of pharmacy. That is a major jump. I was not a supervisor. I was not a manager. I went straight from being basically entry level to a director level leader. And I didn't have it on my resume, but I was very curious. And I put myself out there, even just as a clinical pharmacist, asking for more responsibilities, going to my director saying, hey, can I take some things off of your plate? And she's like, sure. I'm in over my head. Absolutely. Okay, can I take over these staff meetings when you're not here? Can I take over some of the reporting? Can I take over some of the auditing? Can I help with the accreditation? And taking on all of those extra responsibilities, I didn't even know that I was building a resume for myself. And so I started applying for, like I said, the supervisor and the manager roles because I thought that was what was next in line for me. But just one day, a headhunter came to me and was like, hey, I saw your resume and I want to interview you. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm qualified. He said, well, let's talk about it. And I started going through the things that I had been doing in my current role. And he said, I think you should apply. And I utilized all of those things, those unofficial roles that I had within my current role. And I leveraged those to elevate myself to a position that I had no idea that I was qualified for.
No, that's amazing insight when you think through. I think that also helps probably overcome some of that imposter syndrome. A couple things that I'll just say around a job description and not meeting all of the qualifications. If you are actually meeting all of the qualifications, you're probably overqualified, right? So you do absolutely, it is not uncommon to, especially as a female, we got to sometimes overcome some of that, but it's not, you have to be able to grow into a role. And that absolutely means you should not be able to do everything in that job description. Tammy, anything to weigh in there?
Just from a clinical perspective, I always focus on what is my end goal. And it's so easy to say it's the patient. Of course, it's the patient, but then there's some strategies. So when collaborating with my team, it's kind of like, well, why don't we do this like this because of this, providing my rationale. And generally, it's usually accepted. And then the outcomes or the rewards comes more from the standpoint, well, perhaps the nausea was, decreased or any other side effects. So just agreeing with what you all are saying, just putting yourself out there and showing off your talents, or what you may not even think as a talent, but helping the income become more repetitive.
Yeah, so that's beautifully stated, because one of the things that we do have to get good at, and all of you guys just articulated that, is being able to articulate what you've done and how that relates to what you want to go do. All right. So to be able to think through that, to walk through that, to talk through that, even if you have to talk into the mirror, or, or talk to a friend, you want to get good at talking about what you've done, how you've done it, and how that directly relates to what it is that you're trying to talk to that hiring manager that you want to go do, And so, I appreciate you all weighing in on that. One of I'm going to go a little bit out of order here, because I want to bring up something that we just talked about, building up that confidence to go after that other job, right? And how do we articulate that? How do we impress, a hiring manager? How do we do that, right? We talked about that a little bit, but what happens when you don't get the role, right? I think we've all been in the situation before where we're like, this is a perfect fit. Like, this is the job I want. This is what I want to do. I'm hitting all the points here. I'm connecting with the hiring manager. But what happened? Why did I get the email, the dreaded email, thanks but no thanks? And I think it's important when you're thinking about developing your career to not get hung up on that. And so I want to talk to these ladies a little bit about, how do you deal with rejection? What happens when you're in that spot? So maybe, Lakeisha, you can kind of start off with some of your thoughts around, I'm sure you've been in that position before where you've applied for something that you thought you were perfect for. And the fact that you got the interview means you were qualified. So don't get that twisted, okay? We don't interview people who are not qualified. We do not. So we only interview people who are qualified. How do you deal with getting that email or that phone call? If you're lucky, you get a phone call. If you're even more lucky, you get an email, because half the time you don't even get that. How do you deal with that?
Whew. Tough topic, right? So I would like to start out by saying that as humans, the first emotions that we feel are disappointment, hurt, pain. Oh my God, I cannot believe this just happened to me. What did I do wrong? And after so many no's, that can weigh heavy on a person. So heavy that it stops you from wanting to reach for higher heights, wanting to go for things that you know that you're qualified for, but may not get it because the other person, may be more qualified than you. And it puts in a lot of self-doubt. And so, as my friends know, I'm very self-aware. I reflect a lot, and I'm very, very conscious about the words that come out of my mouth and the things that I speak over my own life. And so what I did with rejection is I redefined it for myself. And the way you redefine it is you don't look at it as, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this, I'm not that. When someone tells you no, you find a yes. You don't stop until you get the yes that you're seeking. And so what I do is a 3-step thing. I look at it from 3 different angles. One is redirection, the other is protection, and the last one is reflection. So the redirection is I take all of those negative feelings that I initially have from rejection, and I redirect those into something that's positive. I use them to ignite something in me. I go back and I get an MBA. I go take more leadership. I go take more leadership courses. I network a little bit harder. I shake a few more hands. I get to know people within my organization that I probably wouldn't have put myself out there to meet, right? So I push myself to be better. If people don't know, when the rejections for me are just fuel to make me even better, make me excellent. The second one is protection. Every role is not for you. Sometimes we are going for roles, even though it looks great on paper, there are things in the background that you're being protected from, that no is a protection for you, that closed door is protection for you, because maybe you're not ready, not for the skill sets that you possess, but maybe you're not ready to deal with that level of responsibility. Maybe there's something it may go on in your life that will require more of you than that role. So protection is definitely there in a lot of cases. And then lastly, reflection. If I haven't learned anything during the process of rejection, I've learned that rejection is not always about you. It is not always because you did not do well in the interview, your resume was not good enough. Rejection has a lot to do with and is a reflection of the person who's making the decision. So preference is a part of rejection. Maybe they wanted someone that they could, get along with more on a emotional level, right? Maybe they didn't feel connected to you. Maybe they wanted someone who, looked differently. I'm sorry, we still live in those times. And that is a tough conversation. It's a tough pill to swallow. So it's not always about you. Sometimes it is a reflection of the other person. And I've learned that not all closed doors are just roadblocks. They're just a setup for a comeback, right? And it is your responsibility to take those things, make yourself better, and keep going until you reach those goals and get to where you want to be in life.
I don't know how you follow up.
Next question.
But I do want to ask the ladies on the end, because I know, Tosh, you haven't necessarily gotten everything that you wanted, from a career standpoint. How do you keep moving through that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Lakeisha there. Sometimes it's that reflection, what can I do better? What's the feedback that I could get? And, spot on where that opportunity may not, be for you. And some of these roles, a lot of us will talk to many of you who are here in the audience, and I want to be an FRM, I want to be an MSL, I want to do this. And it's like, well, let's take a step back and really comb through, what it takes to be in that role. And so as much as you might feel rejected, you may have to reject a role like, oh, I don't know if I can travel so much. I don't know if I could have that large of a territory. You have children, period, if they're 0 or 50. I mean, can you afford to, be gone 3-4 days a week? So that full conversation about rejection, you might think I want that role, but it's like, I don't know if I could do that role. And maybe it's not right now. So that's very important. A lot of times we can get in our heads like, I don't think I can do this. We're like already rejecting the opportunity before we're even given the chance. Or going back to reading the job description, I can't do that. Don't reject that you can't do that. So a lot of times it is a mindset that is a priority when it comes to having that conversation with yourself about rejection.
No, that's an excellent point, Tasha, because I think, as we think through rejection, a lot of times we just think about it happening to us, but that rejection can actually be full circle. You may need to reject something that has come in front of you because it may not be at the right opportunity or the right opportunity at the right time. And I'm going to kind of throw you guys a question, and I want Tammy to weigh in on this. We didn't talk about this question, but I'm sorry, I'm put you on the spot here. But talk a little bit about the interview process and how important it is that you do your part of the interview process, because I think a lot of times we get caught up trying to convince someone that we're the right person, and maybe that's not the right approach.
So during the interview process, one of the things that I've learned is the interview process is as much an interview for the job that you're seeking as much as it is for you. So what is your mission statement? What is your goals? What is your pipeline? Where do I see myself? Is there opportunity for growth? So I always have questions ready, and I do the research as far as what does this company has to offer? What is their projection? How will they be a benefit to me? How will I be a benefit to them? My main mission in life. will I get the opportunity to have that impact? Because at the center of whatever the goal is, will this be met? Will I get that personal and professional satisfaction? And of course, some of the other benefits that we look for when we work. I feel like when you first perhaps graduate or enter your career, there may be a different level of excitement or reality that transforms over time. So as you become a more seasoned worker and, your life starts to change where you may have the kids or, you may have the other family obligations, how will you be able to be effective at everything that set out to do and what you do and, just be good at it?
No, thank you. Appreciate that perspective, because I do think it's extremely important when you're going through the interview process that it is very much about you, especially as you get further, to your point, more seasoned in your career, there's a lot you have to offer. What I can bring to the table now as a pharmacist with all of my different skill sets is very different than what it was when I graduated 20 years ago, right? So you just need a job, right? And so, but as you get further into your career, don't sell yourself short. You are interviewing that person too. Particularly that hiring manager. What kind of leader are they going to be to you? Are they going to be the kind of leader that you need? That you need to? Are they going to help you succeed? How are they going to support your career growth? Why are they where they're at? Why are they working for this company? Are they disgruntled? Is there something that I don't understand that's going on here? And again, that goes back to your point of protection. Because not all leaders are for everybody, right? And so just because they might be a good leader to one person, that may not be the kind of leadership that you need for your career trajectory and your growth. So it is very important that you come armed with all of the questions that you need to get out of this process, because at the end of the day, you're an asset to that team. There's a lot that you bring to the table, and you want to make sure they're giving some of that back to you. So I'm going to move on to, I want to also leave some time for questions. So I'm going to talk about, and maybe you guys can kind of all talk about this from a different standpoint, networking, mentorship, sponsorship, some of the differences between those words, and maybe choose one and talk through how that has been able to support you throughout your career, how you either use mentorship, how you've been a sponsor or how you've been sponsored, how you've networked. What have you done to kind of go that extra mile? Because really, and probably all of you probably know this, it is almost impossible to get another job without knowing somebody, right? And so it is very important that you walk through things like, and think about things like mentorship, sponsorship, networking. So Tosh?
Well, Chara, we do this very well. So I'm enthusiastic when I talk with people, and I'm seeing people that I've talked with and kind of teared up when I saw people today. So it's both. It's mentorship, being a mentor, being a mentee, being able to give that empowerment, run your own race. I always love the visual with Michael Phelps and Leclose. Michael Phelps killed it that year with all those gold medals. And Leclose looked over at Michael Phelps, and that's how he lost. So don't worry about the other person. That's part of mentorship when I'm talking to people. LinkedIn has, I don't know if it's a mind trick or whatnot, but they'll say, 100 applicants. And then you're like, there's 100 people in front of me. Well, just remove those 2 zeros, because you could be the one. That's very important when I mentor people, and this index finger. I have connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn. Networking is your net worth. So be bold. Ask questions. Connect with people. Not everyone will connect with you. Schedules can get busy. We were talking about this on our flight yesterday, where it's like, wow, the calendar is filling up just with work, but also when people reach out. And sometimes I'm like, I'm going to have to tell them 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But then when we have that time on the phone, I usually end it like, I'm very excited for you. You know, you can hear that passion or that enthusiasm that person also has. So, you know, that combination of mentorship and sponsorship and that networking, it's gone a long way. I mean, I think we're all kind of sitting in this room because of networking. So definitely don't take it for granted, you know, while you're here these next 3 days.
As far as mentoring goes, I found in CODA's, which I'm a member of, and they have something on their website, and it says that the goal of mentoring that I simply agree with is to improve, to develop, to train, to motivate, to coach, and to inspire. So when I'm in that role and I see other people that would like to communicate with me, I keep that in the back of my mind of everything that I want to accomplish with that, you know, and encourage and cultivate and tell them you have to have your own fail-safes. You have your talent. Make sure you put that at the forefront. Never lose sight of who you are, and then equip them and try to invite them to everything or give them as much experience as you can, because I feel like, much to Lakeisha's point, that if we continue to reflect how we were at the beginning of our journey or what we would expect or like, or the kindness to be displayed on our behalf, if we continue to provide that, then I think we can all smile and say, a job well done.
Lakeisha, thank you so much, Tammy. I love all of those terms actually around mentorship. I think that's awesome. And if you take on that role as a mentor, I mean, it's a serious role for me. So I don't say yes to everybody that asks me for mentorship, because you have to be willing to put in the time. And they have to, I tell my if I agree to mentor you, you're going to have to be scrappy. My schedule is insane. I'm on the road every week, and you are going to have to be persistent. Nail me down, right? But when you nail me down, I'm going to pour into you and give you everything you need. But that's a little bit different than sponsorship. And so if you could talk a little bit, Lakeisha, about the importance and the need and the requirement when you become a leader to sponsor somebody. That's a completely different thing than mentorship.
So yeah, I agree. I think it's very important that we understand the difference between mentorship, sponsorship, and an advocate. A lot of people that you may call your mentor may not be your mentor, because the one aspect of mentorship involves trust. So if you're just going to that person because you need some advice on your career, they may not be your mentor. It's just maybe your advocate that helps you and guides you when you need help in a specific area of your career or your professional development. And your mentor is someone that you really can trust to guide you, to walk you through, hold your hand. Like you said, you have to take it seriously, because if I'm mentoring you, I want you to trust the information that I'm giving you and know that I have your best interests at heart. Sponsorship is different. Sponsorship is not your mentor. They can be an advocate because they do advocate for you, but what makes them different from an advocate is that there is risk involved for that person. They have to stick their necks out, basically use their power to give you power, and that it's risky for someone to do that on your behalf. And so you have an obligation. It's the same with your advocate or your sponsor has an obligation. As the mentee, you have to do your part. You have to be out there networking. You have to be out there getting your name out there, building your personal brand. How many of you know what your personal brand is? If I asked you right now, do you know who you are from a professional standpoint and how other people see you, and what brand have you built for yourself? How many people can honestly raise their hands today and say, I know my personal brand, just by show of hands? Raise them high. Right? And that's not even majority of the room. We have to do better in knowing who we are. An advocate is great. A mentor is great. A sponsor is great. But it starts with you. It starts with you sitting down and knowing your why. You have to know what you want to do. We're in an advocacy summit. We have to be able to advocate for others, and we have to be able to advocate for ourselves. So know your why. Once you know your why, start building that brand for yourself. Contrary to popular belief, I am an introvert to the fullest extent. I force myself to be social. I force myself to get on these stages because I understand that the things that I have is a gift, right? And I have to share that. I can't, if you're giving something, if a gift is not for you to hoard it, it's for you to share. So I use my gifts to build my personal brand. So I charge everyone in this room to go home, do some self-reflection, figure out what's your why, and then figure out what you want your personal brand to be going forward and how you're going to implement that into your everyday professional walk.
That's phenomenal. No, that's phenomenal advice. Yeah, Tosh, you want to weigh in on that?
And don't be discouraged if it's not with your current employer. There's times where that mentorship and sponsorship has to be outside of the organization, and don't feel defeated. If they're trying to lead and they're not leading you well, get advice from people you'd want to trade lives with. Like that person looks good. We need to talk. So, don't be discouraged if you're not receiving that, where you're currently at.
Also know that a mentor does not have to have a position of power. However, your sponsor does, because
that is right.
Okay, so I know the difference between that. And I walked through my career for decades and never felt like I had a sponsor or a mentor until I knew what the definition of those were. And I woke up one day and was like, my friends, Krista Smith, she's right there in the audience. She's taught me so much as my friend because I trust her. And she guides me through the right things. Chara, we've been friends for I don't know how long, and we've always have networked with one another and helped each other career-wise. She's my friend, but she's also my mentor, and she does not have any power over me. I don't have any power over her, but we work together so that we can empower one another to be great. Mm-hmm. And we struggle together, we laugh together, we cry together, we do all those things together. And so they don't have to have a position of power. They don't have to have a so-called title that you aspire to be. They can be one of your peers. You just have to find someone that you trust to guide you and give you the right guidance to get to where you need to be.
Someone that's excellent advice. Someone who truly as we would say, have your back, right? And I think we were talking one day about never having mentors. We're like, we've never been the beneficiary of having a mentor. And I think through that conversation, we were like, sometimes your mentor is your friend. That is the person that could be sitting right next to you who 100% has your back and wants has your best interests at heart. So think through that. I think we have 5 minutes, so I definitely want to leave a little bit of time for a question or two. But the last thing I'll wrap this up with. So if you all have not watched Carla Harris's TED Talk on the difference in mentorship and sponsorship, please look up. It's 13 minutes. It is 13, like the best 13 minutes of career advice I have ever heard. And I will quote her and say that she wrapped her TED Talk up. I've watched it probably 100 times. I feel like I have it memorized. But she said the best way to grow your power is to give it away. So today, I want to encourage you to grow your power. Don't keep it all to yourself. The best way to grow your power in your career is to please give it away. Thank you. Now, if anyone has any questions, raise your hand and I'll have to maybe run the mic to you. Oh, yes. Carla Harris. I think her name starts with a C. And Carla Harris. And she has a TED Talk on the difference between mentorship, but it really is about sponsorship, and it's extremely important. And one of the other last points too is that when you are in a position of power, how important it is, especially when you look different. I'm gonna call a spade here. When you look different and you have power, please advocate for people who don't have a seat at the table. Okay? It is extremely important when you're in that position. You have a question?
Yes, thank you. Hi, fellow Syncor employee. Hi. So there seems to be a lot of value, at least from my viewpoint, in our organization and several others, for people to have a pharmacy degree.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering how to manage through that because I don't.
Okay.
And I don't really want to pursue that.
So I will tell you, I think sometimes like there's 3 pharmacists, right? We're up on stage, a lot of pharmacists in the room. It is not necessary to have a PharmD degree. Okay, no one on my team, I'm a national sales director for Syncora, a large distributor. No one that I work with in my GPO team has a PharmD degree. The beauty of building a team is not for everyone to have the same degree. The beauty of building a team is everyone have a different background and to look different, right? That is how you build an excellent team. So while you may work with some pharmacists, it is not necessary to have a PharmD degree. We bring a different skill set maybe to the table. I worked in practice for over 20 years. So when I'm calling on physicians, I'm coming at them from a different viewpoint. But someone else who's sitting next to me, I have an executive director on my team who is a former executive director. I have someone who has 30 years in GPO experience. So the beauty of a team is for difference. Don't feel like at this point you need to go pursue something because there's so many pharmacists that you work with. It is not necessary. I had one question here first. I can repeat it.
All the great advice. And I can also affirm that Tasha lives this walk. She just isn't talking. She and I met through LinkedIn, and it's just a blessing to hear all of you guys. And as a leader, you embody so much of what I believe and what I try to espouse to my team as well. And so thank you. I think you gave excellent advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for affirming us. I think there was someone else in the back of the room that had a question.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm a researcher at Cover My Meds. And you guys said some really interesting and very good advice around asking good interview questions. And, you know, sometimes what people say they do is not what they actually do. So I'm curious to know how you guys ask interview questions to really read between those lines and hopefully not get into a role that's not what you expected. Thanks.
So I do a lot of pre-interview work, which has become very popular, especially if you're interviewing within your own organization. I like to call on the people who are actually in the role, ask them questions, explain to me what's a day in the life look like, what's a week in the life, how's your travel, how do you feel supported? I want to hear from them. I want to hear from people who may not even be on the team that has to collaborate with that team. Do they support your team? You know, how does this leader support the mission? And then when I get into the interview, I start asking very targeted questions. You know, what is the mission of this team? Well, how do you implement change? What are some of the initiatives that you're working on right now? If they don't have those answers, I don't want to be a part of the team. So, because any leader should know exactly what they're working on at that very moment and what's important to them and the customer that they serve. So I ask very targeted questions. I always want to know, what does my career development journey look like? And I share that. Hey, this is what I want for my career. How does that align with this position that I'm applying for? So
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm a geriatric case management professional. Additional resources, when you said know your why, if you have not read Simon Sinek or if you've not seen his TED presentation, he is amazing as far as inspiring, knowing your why and why we do this and why you want to be who you are as a professional. And Brene Brown is another amazing, amazing resource for you. So thank you, ladies.
Warren, so hopefully you guys heard that. She recommended Brene Brown and Simon Sinek.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for the information. I'm hosting a BIPOC mixer at my house to promote space for connection and mentorship and sponsorship for kids seeking mental health, medical professions, as well as social work professions. I'm hosting it next weekend. I've never done it before. I just see that this is a space where I can absolutely help. What advice would you give me in that space?
Well, kudos. Start young. Chara and I were talking yesterday. Some of these roles, if we did this 20 years ago, it'd kind of be a game changer, but we're here now. Just that empowerment, probing questions, getting them to think outside of the box, any resources that you have, paying it forward alone is such a blessing. So you might feel like you have to have this large, grandiose presentation or, give them all of the answers in one event. Start small. My director's here today, so thank you, Sharon, for coming. And on our team, go slow to go fast.
Yeah, no, that is great advice, and kudos to you for seeing a need and filling a gap. I think that is excellent. And we have to close. We're at 8:45, and I'll just say one more thing. To your point, when I saw a gap for pharmacist women from a networking standpoint, and I knew we didn't have a group to, weigh in on, talk through, look at jobs, learn about other roles, I saw a need and I created it. So, I created an organization. It's called Pharmacist Women Networking. I'm so proud that several of the women here, I heard someone today, and it's super humbling to see because we've been doing this for probably 5 years now. And to have someone walk up to me and say, if it wasn't for you, I don't know where I would have been in my career. And your networking event changed my life. That is thank you, Shelly. I'll just have to call you guys out, Shelly and Jeannie. I know Mariana's here. And to see women's lives change by something that you just were this doesn't exist, and I think it needs to exist in the world, and you're not doing it for any reason but to help people. There's not a selfish motive there, and to get that opportunity, kudos to you. I'm 5 years into building something that I never thought would even be anything. I just thought it'd be a place for my friends to go talk about stuff on Facebook, turned into a real thing. And it really is still today affecting people. And my charge to the people that I've supported through my network is to please now reach your hand back. And I know these ladies have done that. And I am so grateful to you guys because you took the advice that you needed to hear at a really low point in your career. I leaned on my network. Tasha talked to you guys. Melissa talked to you guys. And then the fact that you guys have now reached your hand back and pulled other ladies up along is, I can't be more proud than that. So thank you all today for your time. We appreciate it. And we'll see you around. Please connect with us. Find us on LinkedIn. You can find our names or get our, take pictures of our badges. Thank you so much.